Contra Rogue Corps is coming to the Nintendo Switch on September 24th, and having played through its opening level demo a few times, I can safely say that it's incredibly... The demo certainly evokes a classic arcade-style gameplay format, blasting your way through hordes of goons, picking up various power-ups, bombs, and specialty guns to do extra damage when fighting a swarm. That's all good stuff. I'm all about games that evoke a sense of old-school gaming sensibilities, largely because you're actually doing shit in old-school games, and the focus is almost entirely on gameplay, which is just as well because the dialogue isn't remotely funny, and Fuckface's voice actor sounds like he'd rather be doing a Budweiser commercial.
I'll just shoot down this fucker.
The fact that you can't skip the terrible dialogue or the equally bland cutscenes doesn't help things either, especially on replays, but whatever. Anyway, the whole thing is simple. Blast your way through a fairly decent variety of monsters for about 10 minutes, fight a gross-looking mini-boss, then take on a giant motherfucker at the end of each level, apparently. Though for some no-doubt brilliant reason, the demo ends right before the real first boss is about to get started, and nothing gets the blood pumping quite like teasing a bunch of giant boss fights and not being able to fight at least one. But you know what? It's all consistently fine. I wasn't bored at any point during the demo and have no reason to doubt this isn't reflective of the larger game. I'm all for games promoting a wide variety of boss battles because now more than ever I think too many games treat boss fights like an afterthought. Like I said, a lot of Contra Rogue Nation feels like an old school game in all the right ways. With or without the co-op, I can see it being alright. The game itself possesses a solid enough control scheme, simple yet mostly intuitive, though the left face button being what you press to switch weapons goes against everything shooters have ever taught me. That might sound like a minor thing, but instinctively when I'm in a heated situation and need to rotate weapons, pressing the top button only triggers bombs, and if you don't have anything, you're just doing nothing. So for players who do pick this game up, I certainly hope you can map the buttons to a more conventional shooter layout. On the subject, I really dislike how you slow down when you're actually aiming your weapon. I know it helps to keep your aim precise, but that doesn't really help when you're surrounded by about 20 zombie mutant soldier looking motherfuckers all gunning towards you, and you gotta be able to move fast or it's your ass. Also, while I appreciate special takedowns as much as the next guy and the fact that you have to trigger them by stunning enemies similar to kneecapping Spaniards in Resident Evil 4 to body slam the poor buggy bastards, holy shit did these things drag on. In Resident Evil 4, takedowns were barely a few seconds a pop. In Contra Rogue 1, it's like something out of an Injustice game. And I don't know if it's just a demo, but the cutscenes are super choppy, dropping frame rates like Deus Ex whenever water's involved. But still, my overall time with the demo was pleasant enough. The gameplay looks and plays exactly how I thought it would based off the trailer. A lot of people made a big stink about how you can't spam bullets infinitely like the original Contra, and I couldn't give a shit because honestly, it almost never got in the way of my playthrough and wasn't a hard thing to navigate around. Shoot your gun for more than 10 seconds straight or fire your missile launcher 4 times in a row and there's this 10-second cooldown. But at no point during my initial playthrough that I ever overheat my gun. Happened a few times during my other playthroughs, and yeah, when it happened it was annoying, but nothing deal-breaking. In fact, none of the game's issues are deal-breakers. Yeah, it's a Switch game, it looks like an early PS3 game, but I've always said that graphics don't matter so long as the game is fun. And the gameplay is fun. Not exciting, but it kept such a brisk pace that I was engaged the whole way in. Contra Rogue Agent is fine. It'll probably get average to thoroughly middling reviews, sell like ass, and that'll be the last we see of Contra for a good long while, and I couldn't care less. Because while the demo was enjoyable enough, it didn't do anything to excite me and make me want to experience anything more than I did. Everything was consistently fine, but nothing was exciting, and again, I maintain actually letting us experience the first giant boss fight might have changed my tune. For games with levels this brief, I'm not above picking shit up for bosses alone if they're fun enough, but I can't say, and judging from the experience I have with the demo, I can only assume that the actual boss fights themselves are perfectly enjoyable, yet probably unremarkable. There's actually a lot to Contra Rogue Love's Gambit that we didn't actually get to experience. Giant boss fights, weapons customization, co-op, or the other 3 playable characters. Maybe as a whole they do result in the game that can be a fun way to kill some time, but I'm kinda over that shit, man. I'm over time killing games that pass a few hours with semi-engaging gameplay. If I want to devote my time to a game, then I want it to be a thrilling experience. I want gameplay so good that it becomes hard for me to put the controller down. And by the time I was done with the demo, I had no problem stopping then and there. Look, I'm 34 years old. The only time I have to really play video games anymore is in the dead of night instead of doing any sleeping. So is Contra Rogue the bat? Why the fuck do I remember Sonic Adventures 2? A game I'm willing to forego sleep over? Not at $39.99. If this were an indie title priced at any game prices, maybe. Because inoffensive as the game is, it feels cheap as hell. And it's kind of indicative of a much larger problem with Konami these days, in that the fuckwits in charge really don't want to put money into their console games anymore. At least not in games that aren't their stupid fucking soccer games. You know, there was a time when games like Castlevania Lords of Shadow 2 were considered the low point for this company. Before Hideki Hayakawa took the reins as CEO of Konami in 2015, you know, the same year all that stuff happened, Konami was reliably pumping out at least one AAA budgeted single-player title a year. People could afford to dismiss games like Lords of Shadow 2 because they knew other, more consistent titles were underway. Today, if Konami ever released the games like Lords of Shadow 2, we'd sing their fucking praises, because at least Lords of Shadow 2 was a video game, with a proper budget, tons of content, excellent boss fights, and great production value. Now compare that to Contra Rogue River, the only legit single-player game Konami's released since Metal Gear I Will Survive. You want to tell me this is the best they can do with all their fucking resources? A cheap, choppy, dated game that's perfectly functional yet utterly unremarkable? Since the release of Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain, Konami hasn't released a single AAA budgeted single-player video game. Just like with Survivance, Konami's higher-ups aren't willing to put any real money into their console games anymore. Not when they can turn out so much more profit with such minimal investment in their mobile scene. Thank you very much, Hayakawa. And again, it's not even that any of these games they've released have been bad. A lot of people seem to really like Bomberman R, and more power to you. But these are but a shadow of the kind of quality video games Konami was once renowned for. Contra Rogue Corps seems fine. The experience wasn't smooth, but it wasn't unpleasant going down. Once I got into the groove, I was engaged. I can't honestly imagine playing with other people makes it any more exciting, but even solo was perfectly enjoyable. Maybe it even gets a lot better with the other weapons in the boss fights, depending on how many levels the game actually has and how varied the boss fights are. It comes out next week. If you can forgive the overheating system, semi-sluggish movement when you're aiming, dated visuals, painful dialogue, lackluster voice acting, and want something bombastic that you can play with a buddy on the couch, then it could be worth your time. Who knows, maybe more curiosity will get the better of me and I'll end up picking it up and do a full review. It ain't a bad experience, but with the kind of money Konami can afford to pump into video games, its overall cheapness is hard to ignore. Especially when there's so many games coming out, many of which look far more exciting than this. Anyway, if you played the demo, what are your thoughts? Are you excited for the full game and different? Are you wondering why I sound so congested? Whatever your thoughts, let me know in the comments. Anyway, thanks for watching. Also, if you're looking for a middling video game on the Switch for $39.99, you might as well check out No More Heroes Travis Strikes Again. Its levels might drag on for way too long, but it's everything Contra should be, with the added benefit of excellent boss fights, an incredible soundtrack, incredibly witty and hilarious, albeit self-congratulatory writing, and it was written by the only video game director/writer who is slightly more insane than Hideo Kojimbo.